New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom. Rock and roll. Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's.
Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hasba Cutie.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Van Facebook page, website, and mobile app.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Great American Weekend.
Great American Weekend. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, listeners of Radio Van, people who want to learn English, practice English, and of course, listen. And we are here again because it is Saturday night, and I'm here in the studio with Master Steve.
And I'm here with Ina MK.
And tonight we are supposed to have a guest, so be careful, listen, and also...
Is our guest dangerous? Nobody warned me.
Be careful, be careful.
Be careful. He's dangerous? No, he's not dangerous.
He's gonna have an interesting story, I bet. That's for sure. And our theme tonight is fall and aviation.
Yes, because November is Aviation History Month in the United States. And so I've got some information and stuff about airplanes and the history of
no
aviation.
Doubt.
And I've got not necessarily slang terms, but different aviation terms for us tonight. But, you know, there's another thing that's going on. And actually it's, I don't know, maybe it's more exciting. Maybe it's more exciting than aviation.
Could be.
Today is, or no, not today. I'm sorry, the 18th. So Monday is apparently Mickey Mouse's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy coming birthday, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. So Ina, what's your...
So old.
Yeah, I know.
One of the first, I think, Disney cartoon, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he's the
One
character.
of the first characters.
He is the character that Walt Disney made that made him famous. So yeah, it all kind of started there. What's your favorite Disney character?
Oh,
Or if that's too difficult, what's your favorite Disney movie?
When I was a child, it was The Little Mermaid, because I really loved the happy ending story, okay?
Which is...
The Soviet cartoon was so stressful to me, so I was happy to find the other American version.
Well, and that's something that over the years, you know, Disney has gotten they've gotten heat for.
Yeah.
People have gotten mad because they change the end of a lot of these old stories that they make into their cartoons. Or Hunchback of Notre Dame, I remember when that came out, I think I was in college. And Quasimodo lives? That's not how Victor Hugo wrote the story.
Right.
You know?
Well,
yeah,
but maybe
and then,
it's better for kids.
Hans Christian Andersen, who created the Little Mermaid story. Little Mermaid doesn't live at the end, and Disney changed it.
Armenians would say that Hans Christian Andersen is spinning in his grave.
Yeah, well, Americans would say that too. He's spinning in his grave. Yeah, so who knows? I mean,
maybe
there are positives and negatives about that. You know, I mean, if kids don't hear about death when they're little, then when they finally do encounter it, somehow it's
too
mind-boggling and too difficult for them.
Too unexpected.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have a quiz. And I think we can get through it quick before we have to go to the commercial break.
Yeah, let's
do
it.
Which Disney character are you?
Oh, fun.
Okay.
I'm wondering. Let's do it.
So I took it a couple of days ago, and I'm Mickey Mouse.
There you go, the classic.
Hi, Ina. How are you?
Master Steve is classic. Okay,
well,
let's do it.
thank you, Ina. Now let's do the quiz.
Let's do it.
Those are the best impressions I can do. What does your Friday night usually consist of? Trying to get my darn TV to work. Whatever I want, leave me alone. Hanging out with my friends and family. I'm usually working, or
I'm usually working.
or talking with my friends.
Usually working.
Okay, usually working.
Because the day after we have the show.
Yeah, exactly. Getting ready for Saturday night. And then what are you usually doing Saturday night? Working. Wow, what horrible weekends you have. What do you value most in a friend? Compassion, independence, sense of humor, loyalty, or charisma?
I think loyalty.
Okay. Loyalty. How do you usually handle peer pressure? Give in because you're a follower. Go with it, not really understanding why. Do it because you know you can, not because they're pressuring you. Don't give in and explain why, or just politely say no.
Politely say no.
Okay. Question number 4. Have you been in an accident? You did not die, or you have been in an accident. You did not die, however, which is good. But what kind of accident were you just in?
Oh.
Accident? All I did was bump into another person. 2, I fell down the stairs.
Okay.
3, my house fell down.
Okay.
Okay. 4, I was trying to fix the TV. I guess you're not supposed to tie those 2 wires together.
I think it's A. The first.
Or the last one is a car accident.
I think it's A.
Accident? All I did was bump into the other person.
Let's be positive.
Okay. Number 5. Do you have a special someone in your life? Yes, and he's quite handsome. No, I don't. Special someone? What is that? Yes, but it's not like they do much for me. They just complain. And the last one, yes, and she is a very sweet someone. Or yes, and he is a very sweet someone.
The last one.
Okay. Ooh, who is it? Are you keeping
coming.
secrets from me?
I knew that was coming.
So 6, you decided to get your friend a brand new TV for their birthday. How do you go about doing this? I don't have any money, so I'll give them mine. Shop around for deals on a good one. I don't know much about TVs, so I'll just go get any one. The next one, find the best TV I can afford. Or the last, find one I can afford. They should be happy with whatever I get them.
Oh, the previous.
Find the best TV I can afford?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 7, what is your most unique physical feature? Your nose, your tongue, your mouth, your ears, or your eyes?
Eyes.
Eyes. Okay. 2 more left. I think we can make it, right? What was you and your friends are asked to play in the upcoming parade. Which instrument do you play? The trombone, the drums? I don't. I'm the conductor, the trumpet, or the flute?
The trumpet.
Trumpet. Okay. And here we have the last question, and after the break, we'll be back to let everyone know. So, complete the statement. Life has its ups and downs, is something to savor, is wonderful, is a laugh, or is a blessing?
Is wonderful.
Is wonderful. Great.
Let's do it quickly.
We have to go to break. We'll be back right after this commercial break and tell you which Disney character Ina MK is.
Oh, I'm so anxious. We'll be back.
Come and hang with us every weekend. It'll be a blast.
A blast?
Yeah, a good time.
No, come chill with us. It'll be cool.
Chill?
Yeah, relax, hang out.
Come chew the fat with us.
Yuck! No way! Join us!
On the Great American Weekend, where we'll help you decode American slang.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I am Master Steve, and I'm here with Ina MK.
Yeah, yo. show. And I'd like to read a comment before we get to the result of my quiz. So Anush Antonian said that she's following all our shows, that she doesn't start her day without Gloomov's morning show. And she says that we're really good. Bravo. And Anush, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Wonderful.
And for being our loyal
We
listener.
love to hear from our listeners. So,
Yeah,
we
we love your comments.
drop comments on the live feed on Facebook, or even on, all of the different places where we are all over online. Or you can call us and talk to us live on air, 560-901.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Thank you.
the
Now.
results of the quiz. Ina,
Yes?
you are Minnie Mouse.
Oh, okay. No, so
You
are
are
we cousins
you
or
are-
what? No,
We
sister
would
and brother?
well, no, they're married,
Oh, okay.
aren't they? Minnie and Mickey Mouse, they're married. Yeah, they're a couple, or they're a couple. I don't know,
goes
depending
good
on what.
in the show
whichever.
context.
Yeah, you are a sweet, caring person. You are there when your friends need you, and because you care, you aren't afraid to correct your friends.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mickey Mouse. That's funny.
All right. So, what do we have coming up next?
We've
our
got some quotes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have prepared some fall quotes, also some quotes connected with aviation. I'm thinking that there'll be too much, so stop me whenever it is.
Well,
So-
we'll keep going until we
Yeah.
hit the commercial break.
Yeah, okay. So the first one is, I fly because it releases my mind from the tyranny of petty things. Antoine
Of
de
petty
Saint-
things. Oh, yeah.
petty
Small,
things.
unimportant things.
Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. We've come to view flying as yet another impressive but ultimately uninspiring technological realm. Aren't we forfeiting something important when we sneer indifferently at the sigh of an airplane? The sheer impressiveness of being able to throw down a few $100s and travel halfway around the world at nearly the speed of sound. Patrick Smith.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so true, too, because
Yeah, it is.
look,
It is a miracle.
116 years ago, there were a bunch of people on planet Earth
That wouldn't
trying to
even
figure
think.
out how man can fly, how human beings can fly. And they didn't even think that they'd be able to do it in their own lifetime. The Wright brothers, just like a year before they did the first flight, were saying, well, we're going to keep working on this. We're going to keep trying to figure out this problem, but man probably won't fly in our lifetime.
And they wouldn't even understand how the birds fly.
Yeah, well, and
The
that's part of how the Wright brothers kind of figured it out too, by
Yeah.
watching birds. But then we go from that, the first human engine-powered flight in 1903, all the way 66 years later, man is landing on the moon. Right?
There he goes.
I mean, that's
with
insane.
the history.
How many millennia were human beings alive wondering how they could fly, if they could fly? And all of a sudden, within 60 years, we're going from the first flight, which was just a few seconds, like a minute long, to the moon. That's incredible. And now we get on an airplane.
It is a miracle.
And now we get on an airplane and we fly halfway across the planet, and we're just
And
like,
we don't
oh, yeah,
value it. We've become so spoiled.
Yeah.
So this next one I like, really. It's anonymous. It says, life is simple. Eat, sleep, fly. My airplane is quiet and for a moment still an alien, still a stranger to the ground. I am home. An airplane stands for freedom, for joy, for the power to understand and to demonstrate that understanding. Richard Bach.
Nice.
And let me read something from the fall related quotes, because we don't almost are out of time.
Well, no, let's keep going. We'll
You
come
think?
back after the break and we'll do the fall ones.
Okay.
Because the next one that you have on the list here, I can see your list. The next one you have on the list is...
Sometimes flying feels too godlike to be attained by men. Sometimes the world from above seems too beautiful, too wonderful, too distant for human eyes to see. Charles Lindbergh, The Spirit of St. Louis.
Yeah, and Charles Lindbergh is actually from Minnesota, my home state, and he's famous for being the first person to do a solo nonstop flight across the Atlantic.
There you go.
Yeah, and
so he knows what he's saying.
If you fly in, well, no, not anymore. It used to be called this. They've changed it now to not confuse visitors. But the airport in Minneapolis, the main airport, used to be called the Lindbergh Terminal, and they have a replica of his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, hanging in the terminal. The real one is on display in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Institute, the Air and Space Museum on the National Mall.
Thanks for the informational comments that you have for my quotes. And now we're ready for the break. You guys can call in 560-901 to chat with us on air. Also, leave your comments in our live video. Ask your questions. Practice your English. This is the Great American Weekend, and our theme tonight is fall and aviation. Stay tuned. Hey, Steve, do you like Hush, Harissa, and Spas?
Yeah, I love them. But what would you call them in English?
Yeah, I'd call them cowfoot stew, chicken porridge, and sour yogurt soup.
Sorry I asked.
The Great American Weekend.
We were listening to You Killed Me on the Moon by Blow.
Whoa. What a way and what a place to go.
Yeah, what a place to die. And we're back. This is the Great American Weekend, and we were reading some quotes, and we're ready to continue. So lovers of air travel find it exhilarating to hang poised between the illusion of immortality and the fact of death. Speaking of death, Alexander Chase. You haven't seen a tree until you've seen its shadow from the sky. Amelia Earhart.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that one.
But, again, it's one of those things where so many people have seen that now. When she said that, even even half the population of someplace like America, one of the most modern countries in the world, half the people had never been on an airplane.
Yeah, so we have to value the opportunities that we have today. The airplane has unveiled for us the true face of the earth. Again, Exupéry. Truly superior pilots are those who use their superior judgment to avoid those situations where they might have to use their superior skills.
Nice. Yeah. Prevent problems instead of having to deal with them.
And I like this one, really. How beautifully leaves... we go to fall theme. How beautifully leaves grow old. How full of light and color are their last days. John Burroughs. Mm-hmm. Anyone who thinks fallen leaves are dead has never watched them dancing on a windy day.
Nice.
Shira Tamir. Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall. Scott Fitzgerald.
Scott Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Love the trees until their leaves fall off. Then encourage them to try again next year. Chad Sugg. And all at once, summer collapsed into fall. Oscar Wilde. And that's poetic. Mm-hmm. The trees are about to show us how lovely it is to let the dead things go. Another good one. And the last one, delicious autumn. My very soul is wedded to it. And if I were a bird, I would fly about the earth seeking the successive autumns. George Eliot. And the last one kind of connects our two themes of flying and the fall. Yeah. And I'm done. Master Steve.
Well, okay, then what do you expect from me now?
Some useful information and
Some useful
knowledge.
information. Well, I don't know. Why don't we... what do you think is more interesting? I've got a few little highlights of the history of human flight, or I've got terminology.
Oh, let's do the terminology first, because it's always useful.
Let's see.
One of our listeners' favorite parts of our show is the terminology, phrases, and the slang.
So, air traffic control. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's...
So there's air traffic.
Yeah, there's air traffic. There's traffic in the air. And it's more important to have control over the traffic in the air than it is to have control over the traffic on the ground, right? Somebody's got to coordinate this, because if you're flying along and there's somebody under you or behind you, you can't see them.
Yeah.
As a pilot of an airplane.
Back mirror.
Yeah, you don't have a rear view mirror, and there could actually be somebody below you, and there could be somebody above you who's coming down. So anyway, air traffic control is this service that's provided throughout the world by these different stations that have radio contact with the airplanes and radars, and they keep track of where the airplanes are and where they're headed and talk to them and tell them, go this way, go that way, don't go that way, all that kind of stuff.
How does that work? With cameras or?
Well, no. At the actual control tower at an airport, the air traffic control people can see the airplanes if the weather is good, and they can see where they're flying around. So there's a visual element to it when you get to the actual airport. But otherwise, in other places, they have radars. Right, so they send out the radar waves, and it bounces back, and it shows that something is there, but you can't tell what that is. That could be a flock of birds, it could be an airplane, it could be a flying saucer, who knows? Yeah. So that what airplanes have is they have these things called transponders, which send out a code that's given to them by air traffic control, and each plane in the area of an air traffic control station it's squawking at a certain number. And when they first come into their area, the air traffic control will talk to the airplane and tell them to, I guess it's called, to squawk a certain number, and then they'll be able to connect that transponder signal to the little blip that shows up on the radar screen and mark it. Yeah. And so they'll be able to say, okay, so this is this plane that I was just talking to. And then one of the other things actually that's further down on my list is the registration number of the airplane. So every airplane has a registration number like a license plate, really. Yeah. And it's typically called, especially in the U.S., it's called an N number, because in the U.S., every airplane that's registered there, their number starts with N. So N32874 would be an airplane. It would be like a license plate number. But then every country has its own prefix. So some of the ones that might be interesting for our listeners, let's say Armenia is EK.
EK.
So if you see an airplane that has EK and then a number on it, and sometimes they call it the tail number too, because especially for smaller planes, it'll be written on the tail so that you can see it from a distance. But for commercial airlines, big planes, it's usually not written someplace big where you can see it. It's under the cockpit somewhere, not that big. But EK would be for Armenia. And F is for France. FA or RF is for Russia. A7 is for Qatar.
I wonder why EK is for Armenia, because
F you have to think about it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Why N is for the U.S., I don't know, because that's kind of where the whole thing got started. A lot of the European countries that were, early on in aviation, like Germany is D. Because in
Denmark,
Deutschland, right? They see themselves not as a country whose name starts with a G because they don't speak English, right? Italy is I, So a lot of them are logical like that, but then at a certain point you run out of letters of the alphabet, or somebody else has already taken it. So Armenia at one point was probably part of the Soviet Union for air traffic control purposes. And so when they got their independence, what was left over? I mean, all A's were all taken.
We got
right?
all that was left.
And so you got EK, which I don't know. But and here's another thing. Airports all around the world have their codes, and the major airports have 3-letter codes, and the smaller airports have 4-letter codes. And so, do you ever wonder why people refer to Yerevan as EVN?
Yeah. I have been thinking about that, but then it was like EVN,
Yerevan.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, EVN is the airport code for Zvartnots Airport here. So when you're flying, if you look on your tickets, or if you look on the tag on your baggage, it'll say
the
EVN
destination
as one of the letters. You put in EVN to any sort of flight control thing, and it'll bring up the airport here, right? So like CDG is Charles de Gaulle. MSP is, at Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I usually end up flying to. LAX is Los Angeles International Airport. And so you can find all of these. OHA, I believe, is O'Hare, which is the big airport in Chicago.
Yeah, I've been there.
DIA is Denver International Airport. VIA is Vienna International Airport. Let's see, I forget. LaGuardia is LGA, which is one of the big airports in...
I remember all this.
I don't know. It's one of the big airports in New York. JFK is the other big John F. Kennedy Airport.
Of course.
And NWK, I think, is Newark, which is just across in New Jersey. It's still considered a New York airport. These are airports that I've flown to fairly often, So I remember them because it's always neat. I mean, you can look at it and see what's what and and then when you go to buy plane tickets online, you can put in these 3-letter codes and it'll find the name of the airport for you. So you don't have to type in the whole name.
Do you get excited when you fly?
I don't know. I get excited.
I do.
For where I'm going.
Yeah.
If I'm going someplace, I'll be excited about it because I'm going there. But actually, I am one of those people where it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, getting on the plane. Try to arrange my schedule the day before I fly so that I can sleep on the plane and then wake up wherever I'm going, or maybe not sleep on the plane, depending on how I want to try to deal with jet lag.
So you're one of those lucky guys who can actually sleep on the plane.
If people leave me alone, I can sleep on the plane. I'm still able to do that. I'm still able to sleep on an airplane. So,
would you like to talk about the fall?
Well, come on. I've got tons of other... I mean, or do we...
Yeah, sure.
Well,
sure.
Okay, so I talked about transponders.
I thought you were done.
The vertical speed indicator, the VSI, is a little instrument that you have on the control panel in the flight deck. The flight deck is another name for the cockpit where the pilots are.
Where the pilot is.
And the VSI is the vertical speed indicator. Of course, you've got your speed indicator, which tells you how fast you're going forward. But the vertical speed indicator tells you how fast you're going up and down. And sometimes if you're flying and you're looking, you can't tell how fast you're going up and down. If you can't see the ground very well, you could be going down really, really fast and not feel it. So that vertical speed indicator is a really valuable, instrument in the cockpit. And there are a lot of things, one of the complexities that the Wright brothers had to start to deal with when they were trying to figure out how to make an airplane. And there were a lot of people trying to do that, but one of the things that really set them apart is the way that they thought about controlling the airplane. And they really thought, well, it's not like a bicycle. And they were bicycle mechanics and bicycle sellers,
really?
The Wright brothers. Yeah, that's what they did. They sold and repaired bicycles. And they ended up being the first human beings to make an airplane and fly. You're not just going forward and side to side. You also have up and down that you need to deal with. And especially if you're up in the air, and they didn't know this, of course, because nobody had really been up in the air like that. But if you're up in the air, I mean, you can't necessarily tell if you're turned a little bit one way, or if you're ascending, which means going up, or if you're descending, going down. So they developed later on in flight, they developed all these instruments to be able to tell you those sorts of things. And
that's genius, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole history of aviation is filled with so many clever people, engineers and whatever, that came up with solutions to problems that presented themselves that, 50 years earlier, nobody would even imagine that that's a problem. You've got something called the artificial horizon, okay, or the pitch and glide indicator. These are things.
Horizon?
The artificial horizon is it's an instrument on the control panel that shows you where you are and how do I explain this? How you're situated in reference to the horizon, which of course is if it's a clear day and you can see the horizon in front of you, you can see that, right? But if it's nighttime, you can't necessarily see it. Or if it's cloudy and you're flying above the clouds,
like a reference point.
Yeah, you can't see if you're level or if you're leaning a little bit to the left or if you're leaning a little bit to the right. You can't see if your nose is pointed up over the horizon or down towards the horizon. You can't see that unless you can see the horizon. And once you start flying in certain conditions, weather conditions or light conditions, you need that artificial horizon to
because it's a three-dimensional space.
Yeah, it's a three-dimensional space. So, and you have VFR, which is visual flight requirements or regulations, where you can fly just by looking and seeing where you are, following roads, following rivers, and using that to follow the map. Or there's IFR, which is instrument flight rules, and that's when you can't see things. You can't see the ground. So if you're flying in, they say meteorological conditions, like, so with the weather is such that you can't see,
or
then
maybe
you have to use, or maybe it's nighttime. Yeah, you're flying above the clouds, you're flying through rain or that kind of stuff. VFR. And so you have to there are different levels of being able to fly. If you have visual rating, then you can only fly when you can see. Then you have to get your instrument rating, and then you can fly using just the instruments on your dashboard, on your control panel, and not being able to see. One of the ways that they test you for that is they close all the windows in the plane, and you have to fly without any windows. And that's gotten, to a certain extent, much easier, especially with GPS, and because they've got, just like you have GPS in your car, right? They've had it in airplanes for quite a while too, and it's incredibly convenient instead of using VORs and these different radio signals and stuff
compared to what there was at the beginning.
Yeah.
We've got a comment from Kevin Vardet, who says, "Hello, Bravo Van Radio." Thank you, Kevin, for your comment. Thanks for listening. And so, dear ladies and gentlemen, listeners, this was our very useful list of terms.
I've got a couple more.
Oh, that's good. So, make sure you write down and use this during your flights.
FAA is the Federal Aviation Authority, and they're the people in the U.S. who regulate flight stuff, right? Airplanes and stuff. You've got ETE, and you might see that on the screen in the airplane when you're flying. The ETE is
sounds familiar.
Estimated time en route. So the estimated time that the journey will take. Okay, and then what's even more common is ETA. You've heard this before, right?
Yeah,
ETA.
yeah.
So the estimated time of arrival when you expect to get to your destination. Yeah. Do we want more, or should we move on to something else?
Whatever you feel like. This is your segment. You're the master.
Let's see. All sorts of interest. Well, I talked about the transponder already. Oh, and then you've got, and actually what it's called is the NATO phonetic alphabet.
Which is?
Which is a set of words, okay, that stand for the letters of the alphabet. And they've got a standardized one that NATO uses, and pretty much Aviation uses it all the time
like
as
Morse?
well. No. It's because sometimes when you're talking over the radio, and if the signal isn't clear, I mean, not like radio, broadcast radio like this, but like walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
The way that pilots talk to
Each other.
to air traffic control and talk to the control tower and stuff like that. Sometimes it's not that clear, so if you just say a letter, you can't tell what letter it is, you know? And so they have words that go along with them all. And some of these might sound familiar to you. Like A is for alpha.
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody says alpha in an airplane, they don't mean alpha, they mean A. Okay, so alpha, Bravo is for B, C is for Charlie, Delta is D, E is Echo, F is Foxtrot. So if somebody says Foxtrot Delta Charlie, they're saying FDC.
C. Yeah.
And then one of the ones that becomes more Zulu, you go all the way down. You can find this on the internet. It's all over the place. But Zulu is what Z is, right? And if you talk to a pilot or even a lot of military people, and they talk about the time in terms of Zulu, do you know what that means?
Time in terms of Zulu? No.
Yeah. Okay.
We're out of time?
No. Well, Z would then,
Zero.
Zulu stands for Z, which then turns into standing for zero.
Zero. Oh.
Okay.
I had a good guess.
Yeah. And zero time would mean
No time?
would mean the original time zone.
Okay.
Which used to be called Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. But now they've got a different system, so they've changed it to UTC, Universal
Time.
I forget UTC. I forget what it stands for.
Center.
Yeah. So when somebody talks about Zulu time, they're talking about time at the zero meridian, which would be the first time zone. And pilots will use Zulu time to talk so that they don't get confused over different time zones. You know, it's like sometimes you'll look and you'll say, well, wait a second, my plane ticket says I take off at this time and I land at this time, but I can't quite tell.
Time is this?
Well, it's usually at the time of the airport. Yeah. But then you can't always figure out, well, how long am I in the air? You know, if I'm flying from Yerevan to Paris and I take off at this time and I land at this time, that doesn't mean that I've been in the air for that many hours. So pilots, to get rid of all of the time zone changes, they just always talk on Zulu time, zero time.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, Master Steve, for making clear of all the terms that we are so often hear, but we don't quite understand its meaning, but we're just used to hearing the letters. We're about to go on an advertisement break, and it will be followed by a song, Repair, by Westlife. If you remember this band, they have a new album, and this is the best song out of it. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend. We'll soon welcome our guest Peter in our studio right after one segment after this break. And you guys can call in 560901, ask your questions, write your comments, participate. We're open to be here and chat with you. Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
We just had a double jingle.
If it wasn't funny the first time, we played it again.
Yeah, make sure
Hopefully
you
laughed the second time. So I am Master Steve, as I was saying before the commercial break, and I'm here with Ina Mike Kilo.
Which, if you were listening, you were listening carefully the previous segment, you will understand the joke. Some American jokes.
Yeah, well, some American jokes. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So what do we have going on now,
We've
Ina?
got some news
We're
here.
going to do the news. All right.
Yeah, we've got some news, and what do we have to start with?
Why don't you try out some local news?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to talk about Yerevan Book Fest 2019. So there are plenty of events planned to take place as part of the upcoming third Yerevan Book Fest, a festival organized by the Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports, due November 24th through 22nd to 24th, in the Armenian capital. Yerevan Book Fest is held annually since 2017 and aims at promoting reading interest towards modern literature, informing about new publications, and discovering talented beginning writers. So this is a really good thing. If you're interested and if you are a writer, a beginner, do not hesitate. Just apply and participate. Presentation of books by both local and foreign authors, lectures, master classes, and discussions involving public and cultural figures will take place as part of the festival. All events of Yerevan Book Fest will be held at the AGBU Yerevan head office. Entry to all events will be free of charge. There will be a literature competition. 87 bids have been received for 3 categories: poetry, prose, and dramaturgy. Winners will be announced at the closing ceremony on November 24th. The Hover State Chamber Choir and Vahagan Hairapetyan Jazz Quartet will perform at the ceremony. A book fair will take place during the festival, and books will be sold with up to 40% discount. So,
hey, cheap books,
yeah,
all right.
Do not miss this opportunity, guys. The Agape Chamber Choir and the Yerevan String Quartet will perform at the opening ceremony. That's what we have about the Book Fest.
Great. Hey, guess what? You know what's going on in the U.S.?
Impeachment?
Yes. And honestly, so on Wednesday, they started the open hearings. Mm-hmm. So they have called people in, a couple of ambassadors, a former ambassador, in to testify in front of Congress. Mm-hmm. Adam Schiff's committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, in order to gather evidence up to try to see if they'll put together articles of impeachment for the House of Representatives to vote on. Again, I've watched a little bit of this, and, this is progress in terms of news over what was happening a couple of weeks ago when the hearings were being held behind closed doors. Because now we can actually see what's going on in real time, and if you have the patience and the time, you can sit down and watch all of the testimony and actually get a real feel for what's going on instead of just getting bits and pieces through leaks and whatever.
Master Steve, have you heard about it? I'm sorry for interrupting, but have you heard
it's
about
so exciting.
Kanye West's applying for
who cares about what's going on right now? Forget about 2020. 2020 election is just whatever, man.
But 2024 has something to offer.
Kanye is going to run for president in 2024. Now, and this is funny because I was wondering, he had said at one point that he was going to run in 2020.
Now he changed his mind.
Now he changed it to 2024. Well, here's the interesting thing. And this is, Kanye is, of course, he's one of those people where he really gets people talking. He's controversial. I mean, he says stuff all the time that you're like, what?
And
then
popular.
sometimes he says stuff where you're like, yeah. And other times it's like, man, you're nuts. But I think he's not running in 2020 because he's actually kind of supporting Trump, which is
kind of controversial.
It is controversial. And one of the things that Kanye is talking about is African Americans, blacks in America, African Americans typically vote Democrat. And it's seen as being kind of odd or unusual if they vote for Republicans. And one of the things that, and then of course, with everybody talking about how racist Donald Trump is, and I would put that to question. Anyway, whatever. Why would black people vote for Donald Trump? Why would Kanye support Donald Trump? And that's a whole nother issue that we can maybe talk about some other time, or maybe not. But what he's doing is Kanye is talking about how blacks, African Americans, black Americans should not necessarily vote Democrat, that they have a choice, and maybe they should look more carefully at the Republican candidates. So this is interesting. And if he runs, I wonder, first of all, I don't know if either party would let him run for their party's nomination.
He's being popular enough to be a president.
Well, I mean, he's popular and he'd probably get a ton of votes, but Trump was popular and got a ton of votes too. Does that necessarily mean he's somebody that you want as the president? I mean, a reality TV star doesn't transition very well into the presidency. A rapper and reality TV star, how would that transfer over into the presidency? I don't even want to think about it.
I've got another news, this president election related actually. There is this Armenian guy, Dan Bilzerian, if you know him.
Unfortunately, yes, I have heard of him. Not one of my favorite people in the world.
Intention to run for U.S. president in 2024. All he is just an Instagram star, so-called. And so he announced that he will run in the U.S. presidential election in 2024. He admits that Kim Kardashian's husband, Kanye West, who has also announced his desire to become president, could become a serious contender for him. Yeah.
Oh my! Talk about spinning in your grave. Neil Postman, who I love to talk about, right? I mention him every once in a while. He must be spinning in his grave. Now, we have a reality. I mean, he thought it was bad enough that Ronald Reagan, who was a former actor, ended up becoming president. And he kind of forgot about the fact that Reagan went on from being an actor and spent a lot of time as the president of the Actors Guild, and then was governor of California. And he had other experience. It's not like he was just an actor and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm president. But even so, with political experience and stuff, Neil Postman was still very hard on Ronald Reagan, right?
Times change.
Yeah. Now Trump from reality TV star to president, and Kanye. I mean, this is crazy.
This is an Instagram generation.
Amusing ourselves to death.
I've got some medical news related to Armenia. Armenian doctor conducts successful surgery saving lives of newborn baby and his mother in Syria. One of the Armenian doctors who was in Syria on a humanitarian mission has carried out a successful surgery in Aleppo's military hospital by saving lives of newborn baby and his mother and her mother. The Armenian Center for Humanitarian Demining and Expertise told Armen Press. The mother and the newborn baby boy feel very well after a successful completion of the C-section. The doctors of the Aleppo Military Hospital thanked the Armenian doctor for the surgery. Starting from February 2019 up to now, the Armenian specialists provided medical care to more than 6,550 citizens in Syria. So this is a great thing. Yeah. I love getting good news, whether it's medical or political or any news. So thanks to the doctors operating in Syria. And we are ready for the break. and right after the break, we will welcome here Peter Barsamian. He is a 23-year-old Armenian-American, currently living in Yerevan and volunteering for the Paros Foundation. He graduated from American University in Washington, D.C., so this is how he's related to America. More information and more stories about Peter's life will be followed after this break. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend, and I'm here with Master Steve.
And I'm here with Ina MK.
We'll be back after the short break. Stay tuned.
Ina, what would make America great again?
More barbecue.
No, we need more freedom. That's what'll make it great.
Join us on Great American Weekend.
And help us solve all of America's problems.
Every show is recorded by the NSA and sent to the White House.
Hi, we're back in the studio with our guest, Peter Barsamian. Welcome to our studio, Peter. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. This is such a beautiful studio.
Is the couch comfortable?
Oh, it is very comfortable. I could, maybe I'll just stay here after for a little bit.
Great. So let's start. Let's start. What connects you with the United States?
What connects me with the United States?
Yeah.
I was born in the United States. I've lived most of my life in the United States.
Most.
Well,
most of my 23
not a lot of life there yet, but
that's pretty good though.
Yeah, I'd say I've done well so far. I've lived in a few different countries, including Armenia now. But
where
not
else have you lived?
So in school, I lived in Beijing for a few months.
Oh,
I
cool.
lived in Taipei for a few months. And that's really it. But I'm
That's an experience.
from New Jersey and lived in the U.S. pretty much my whole life.
Okay.
So what made you come here?
What made me come here?
Next question.
First of all, I'm Armenian. I have a strong connection with this country, I would say, as most Armenians do. And I wanted to get some experience through a foundation that I had a connection with. I'm working on some economic development projects for the foundation, and it was a great opportunity. I was really excited when I heard about it, and everything kind of fit together, so I decided to make the trip.
Cool. Now you're here.
Yeah, now I'm here. Now I'm loving it.
So you said you're here working on some economic things. So your education background is in economics?
So yes and no.
Yes and no.
I would say. I was a finance major, and I graduated about 2 years ago at this point. So, international economic development, it's not really the same thing, but a lot of the same business principles, I would say, carry over. Managing people, basic numbers that you have to work with. So, yes and no, I guess would be the answer to that.
We were talking about flights and aviation earlier during the show, and of course fall. So I'll start with flying. Do you like flights?
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know. I've been on a lot of flights, I'd say, in my life. Usually I try to fall asleep. Maybe I'll have a drink or two and try to just pass out the whole time.
Oh, so you're kind of scared of flying?
No, I'm not scared of. I just, I don't want to watch movies the whole time.
Okay.
I lose my mind a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I like flying. I like getting to the destination probably a little bit better. But,
the final point.
Yeah, exactly.
What if humans could fly?
What if humans could fly? Oh my gosh.
It would be a mess.
Asking the wrong guy. I would, first of all, I could only speak from my perspective. I would just be in the air the whole time. Is that a reasonable thing to say? I'd just be flying everywhere. I live 2 blocks away from the studio, and I work right over here on just a few blocks up. I would be flying to work every day.
That'd be cool.
In half.
Do you think that would increase or decrease the
traffic.
number of traffic and accidents?
Oh, it would probably increase the number of accidents. When you're up in the air like that, it just is, the risk is going way up. Obviously we'd still do it because who wouldn't want to fly? But yeah, no.
But if we could do it, do you think it would still be as exciting? I mean, we were talking earlier about, it's only been...
if everyone can fly, is it that cool?
Yeah, 116 years, human beings have been able to have flying machines that we can use to fly, and we're already kind of
tired and spoiled.
Oh, it's so annoying to have to be in a plane for 13 hours. The food's so bad.
Try the donkeys.
If we had been flying for all of human history, like naturally, like birds, I don't know, man.
I've honestly never thought of that. This is a new concept to me. That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, if we were able to fly since we were cavemen, I'm sure that we'd be much more cultured back then, and maybe we have a different perspective right now. I have no idea though.
Perspective.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Literally.
Looking down on everything for a lot longer.
Hey, Peter, what's your favorite place here in Armenia?
Oh, in Armenia in general.
In general,
okay. So I'll give you some context. I've had the opportunity to travel a good amount through the volunteer organization that I'm working with, Birthright Armenia, shout out, and the Paros Foundation, also shout out. And I've been to Gyumri many times. I've been to the Tavus region. I just came back from Merki last weekend. But I would say favorite place is the top of Cascade, right at the top of Cascade. Because in the mornings, if anyone's there from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., you might see me and a few friends running up the Cascade, and someday it's tough and it's getting darker, but you get up there and you have a full view of the city, and Ararat's right there, and it's really beautiful, and it's something that I really enjoy going up there and not taking for granted.
Is it about sports or being romantic? I'm wondering. Or both?
What do you mean? Running up Cascade? Yeah. I don't think maybe there's something romantic about the view. I don't think there's anything romantic about physically running up the Cascade. It's not a pretty sight.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a lot of sweat and grunting.
My knees hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah. So, who knows? I mean, maybe it can be romantic one day. I've yet to experience
If you like that view, you've got to get yourself up to the top of one of the mountains.
Yeah.
Here in Armenia.
That's something I've been trying to, I know I've been hearing a lot of my friends go on hikes, and there's organizations that can help make that happen. But yeah, I want to, I'm wondering if I kind of missed it because of the season. It might be a little too cold, or I'm not really sure how it works, but I want to try to do that before I'm gone for sure.
And we're ready for the break. Let's do it quickly so we come back and have some more time to talk with Peter. This is the Great American Weekend, and we're gonna have an advertisement break and a music right after it. Stay tuned. Call in 560-901. Ask your questions to our guests. Also write your questions in the comments if you have.
What's the best word in American English?
My all-time favorite word is but I usually refer to it as lovemaking.
Become more fluent in American English and slang.
We're back in the studio with Great American Weekend. I'm here in the studio with Master Steve and Peter Barsamian, and we're talking about his life journey. So since our show is called The Great American Weekend, I'd like to ask this question. What is the perfect weekend for you?
The perfect weekend for me?
And maybe America versus Armenia.
America versus Armenia. I mean, I would say that they're relatively similar. I mean, just I guess there's some things in America I know more to do in America than I do in Armenia. But I mean, work on Friday, maybe hang out with some friends on Friday night, Saturday take it easy, work out,
sleeping.
That's what I did today. I definitely took it easy. And then maybe walk around. I went to there was an art exhibit it's right in Republic Square that I found on Google. I went and I just checked it out today, which was really cool. And Yeah, Saturday night, it depends on, what's happening. Maybe, hang out with friends, watch a movie, whatever. And then Sunday, in Armenia, I'd be studying language for a few hours. If there's an event through Birthright, I would be going to that. But yeah, it's more or less just decompressing from the week, trying to recuperate and then get ready for
recharge.
Yeah, exactly. Recharge the battery.
So you mentioned Birthright. So Birthright is what brought you here, and they set you up with.
Birthright is a fantastic organization. Cannot recommend it enough for any diasporans, Armenian diasporans, and also if you're not Armenian, Armenian Volunteer Corps, AVCs, essentially the same program. What they do is they bring volunteers from around the world, and they set them up with a living situation, a volunteer position. There's a community of people there who can help you with various different things. There's other benefits, like if you want to stay after Birthright, they can help you get funding for a business. But it's really about bringing people to Armenia, learning about the different issues that are in this country, and then trying to put people to work and make some change.
So what volunteer position did they set up for you?
So I was a little bit different. I actually knew my volunteer position before I applied for Birthright. I had a previous relationship with the Pados Foundation. Back in 2012, my family came over, I think for like 2 weeks or so, me and a few cousins and my mom and brother and sister, and we did some projects with the Pados Foundation. I think we helped a children's center, we helped some construction projects, things like that. And then, so we had this relationship, over the years, and, I was younger back then, I couldn't really do what I'm doing now, but, I had the opportunity. I was a year after I graduated, and I knew I wanted to do something like I'm doing now, so reached out to Peter Barsamian, who's the executive director of Pados, and he told me about this opportunity. I thought it was great, and then I learned about Birthright, and it just all really came together because the combination of already knowing that I'm going to be very inspired and into the work that I'm doing, plus having the community of Birthright volunteers here and that support system, it really worked out perfectly.
Great. And then they have you working in the regions here?
Yes. So the region that I'm most focused on is the Tavush region. That is where two of my projects are currently based out of. One is my main project, and one is something else that the foundation that has me working on. And I can go. Do you want me to go in a little bit more about it? Yeah, why not? So first project is I'm helping the foundation develop a new economic development model for small farms in border villages in the Tavush region. The foundation has been doing economic development projects up until this point, and Peter wanted me to, kind of look into it further and, see how it could be improved, how it could be more efficient. And, I got here, I met with anyone who'd want to talk with me. I met with USAID, I met with, you mentioned CARD, iCare, the World Bank, and, just locals who, were informed on the issues. And the question kind of changed a little bit in terms of, we want to make this more efficient. It turned into more of, we need to change our thinking about this. The issue of economic development in these villages has been something that's people have been taking on for a long time, but recently the thinking has changed from, I guess, the last 20 years of, giving people livestock to get food safety, which is very important. It's a very important part of social development, but now developing the local economies is kind of, I think, the better way to go. So supporting veterinary care, but also trying to go to different supporting functions of the economy to increase production of the livestock. That's really what my focus has been. And there's a whole other agriculture sector that is very important that I have not done any research on, and that would probably be the next step. But
there's a lot.
There's a lot there. I've only been here for 2.5 months, but it's really incredible how much is going on in the agricultural sector here.
Cool.
So you've been here for 2.5 months. What are the biggest differences that you see between here and the U.S. now that you're living here and not just coming to visit for a couple of weeks?
Biggest differences. So
everything.
Are there any?
Yeah, I mean,
I
absolutely. So I would say whenever you go to a different country, and my perspective on this is limited to whatever I've experienced, but I would say that unless you're going to somewhere that's, you know, a completely different culture than what you're used to, people are, I think, at the core similar in some ways, and that there's the things that I notice are the little things. You know, the subway systems are different, and I notice things on the subway that I wouldn't notice in the Washington D.C. metro.
Oh yeah. Couple of
walking.
stations.
Yeah. But walking around, just interacting with people, the way people, you know, interact with each other. Everyone's great here, and, you know, I'm not saying anything like that. But
well, okay, here's you in college. You spent some time abroad.
I did.
Right? So what was it? Beijing
and Taipei.
Yeah. So China and Taiwan, right?
Yes.
What's more familiar to you? What's more different? I mean, being in Armenia or being in Taiwan or being in China?
Is a totally
What's
different
more
world.
familiar with
yeah,
me?
I mean,
Oh, man.
which ones?
Again, the people are, I think, kind of similar. The cultures are different and they have different customs, but people are very similar in terms of how they act around each other. Everyone's very, you know, has kind of the same cultural norms like that. But I mean, Taipei in Beijing, it's, you know, it's very, very different than
it's another planet.
It's completely different than anything. I'm used to New York City, and that's obviously kind of a unique experience on its own. But yeah, I mean, being in the Caucasus, it's definitely a little bit more like home. But I mean, every place is unique in that sense.
Hey Peter, I have a question. We kind of found out about your good strengths of volunteering, and I would like to ask you, what is your greatest weakness?
My greatest weakness. Oh my gosh!
To improve it?
I feel like I'm at a job interview now. I've been asked that question before. I would say up to this point, I've really tried to focus on attention to detail a lot more. I would say that's been a weakness for me for a while that I've really tried to work on. And, you know, it's something that I have to do here.
We've got a caller.
Oh, you got a caller.
Excuse me,
gosh.
I've got to interrupt you. Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, who are we talking to?
Oh, well, my name is Kaya. You're talking to Kaya.
Hi, Kaya. How are you?
I'm fine. What about you?
Welcome to the Great American Weekend. Thanks for calling. Do you like our show?
Yeah, really. I love it.
Thank you.
So, do you have a question for Peter, our guest?
Wow.
Yeah, of course I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, I'm interested in what America gives to him, like to perform as a person. Does it give him something that he like?
What did America give you, Peter, to form as a person?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear that. That was the question. What did America?
Yeah.
give me
What
to,
did America give you to form as a person?
Oh wait, hold on. Let me put this on.
Does it give nothing in Armenia give you more?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your question, Kaya. Thanks for listening to our show. Have a nice evening, and we'll continue on with Peter's answer to your question.
So, what did America give me, and I guess what can Armenia give me? I guess that was kind of the question. So, I mean, yeah, I grew up in America. America gave me, kind of the sense of who I am. I guess it's not really a question that I think about too much, but, you grow up in, some place like the U.S. and there's, a lot more diversity than other places in the world. I'm not saying that I grew up in the most diverse place, but you learn a lot of different perspectives, and it's I think that's a big part of it. But coming to Armenia, I'm Armenian, and that's been a part of my life for a very long time. I think it's kind of reconnecting to the Armenian identity in a certain way, but also getting the Armenian perspective. I've only had the Western. I've only talked to really people in Western countries who are Armenian, and learning about people in the country and their perspective on life would probably, I would say, be very beneficial. Yeah.
Thank you, and let's get back to our question, because we got interrupted about your greatest weakness.
My greatest weakness, yeah. So what was I saying? Attention to detail. Yeah. So I guess in college, something my mom would always yell at me about is pay attention to the details. And usually, I like to, if I have an idea and I want to go forward and go as fast as I can, and I get really excited about it, but then things get lost a little bit in the sprint.
That's actually a really great advice, because sometimes the most important things lay in the details, in small things.
And you know what? I would say, maybe kind of going back to the question that the caller had, being in Armenia, life definitely slows down a little bit compared to other parts in the world, and so it almost kind of forces you to pay attention to more of what's going on. I really can't just blaze ahead with my projects. I have to go at the speed of sometimes other people, and that kind of forces me to pay attention a little bit more. And I think it's been really helpful in that sense, and
makes you more flexible.
Yeah, I would say so.
So we've got a question here in the comments from somebody, David Peters.
Oh, great!
And it says, "Peter, you bring your knit cap?"
You know what, Dave? I did bring my knit cap, and it's right outside, and I'm really glad that you said that. I was actually.
Is there some story behind this?
I don't know. I can attest to it, though.
Yes,
I saw
knit
it.
Hat. Yeah,
when you walked in and we introduced ourselves.
I don't really know
other.
if there's too much to it. This is a hat that I really enjoy. And anyone who's ever said, "Hey, I like your hat," I always tell them my grandma knitted me that hat. I love that hat so much. It gives me a lot of joy, and I had it.
It's a magic hat.
It's a magic hat, and you know what? I can even tell you this. I forget when it was given to me. It might have been like the end of high school, so like almost like 6-7 years ago at this point. And I had it all throughout college. I wore it all the time in college, and I lost it probably like 5 or 6 times, but it always came back. I lost it before I left for Taiwan. I was gone for 5 months, and I came back to DC, and then I found it again. This hat is great.
It is magical.
It is a magical hat, and Dave.
I've got something like that.
I'm glad that Dave is a fan of the show, and that he brought that up. He's in the U.S. right now. He's a very good guy.
Oh, nice.
I've got a ladybug pin which I lost, which was very special to me, and then I found it like a few months later. So I understand what you mean.
I'll show you guys. Yeah, it's a great hat.
Peter, volunteering. Why do you like helping others?
Why do I like helping others? I don't think it's something. I don't think I have like a special answer for that. Why does anyone like helping other people? It's
because volunteering is not for everyone.
It's not.
It's for some special people.
I think that it should be for everyone. I believe that if you have the opportunity, it doesn't even have to. You don't have to move to another country. Volunteering at a local level, wherever you live, is very helpful. But it's rewarding to do work and see that you're actually having a positive impact on a community or someone's life. And it's not like I'm just doing this. Like I want to have my own professional development as well. It's not that I'm just coming in and spreading the love everywhere, but it's really, I think it's a really good combination of me getting experience and me feeling good about the work that I'm doing.
Have you ever felt that your work went unappreciated? Maybe?
Unappreciated? Maybe. Maybe not something that I necessarily want to talk about on the radio, but
why not? That's a red couch of honesty.
Yeah,
so.
But no, I mean, I think everyone kind of has that to a certain extent, where you felt like work hasn't been appreciated, but definitely not so with the Paros Foundation, great organization, and definitely, I would say, with the vast majority of people who've gone through the Birthright program.
David Peters says, haha, glad it made the trip. Great show, Peter.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, David.
Wow.
Thanks for your comment.
Dave Peters. What a just an avid listener, I'm sure.
So what do you miss the most about America?
What do I miss the most? Probably, it's tough to say, okay, I'm here, I want to eat out, what do I want? Okay, I can go get it. Horvats, I can get, maybe a shawarma or a lahmacun, and say, oh, I really want pizza. Like, I'd kill for a pizza, but my friends and family.
You can get good pizza here. You can get good pizza here. You can also get a lot of bad pizza.
I'm from New Jersey,
here.
though, so I'm a little bit of a pizza elitist.
Master Steve, I think you should give Peter some advice.
Yeah,
later after
please,
the
if
show.
you have good pizza, definitely let me know. But
you know what, Peter? Now you have some advisors here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions?
Maybe I'll
feel
call
free.
in on the next show and ask you about the good spots. But no, my friends and family definitely the most. I want to be here and I want to continue working here, but it's always sad to leave a place where you have connections with people.
Yeah.
Peter, how would you change the world?
How would I change the world? I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay, what would you change about
What
the
would
world?
I change? Oh my gosh.
If I could change the world.
I really don't know. I feel like there's some like dumb answers coming in my mind, but
anything.
Anything? Maybe a really good pizza place in Yerevan would be great. A really good New Jersey pizza place.
This guy is hungry.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. There's a lot that really needs to be changed in the world, and no, I don't think I could just think of one thing right now, I guess.
Who would be your alter ego?
My alter ego?
Yeah, ego.
Alter ego. Again, something I've literally never thought about.
It's right time to think about it, right here.
Yeah, right now, right on the spot, right on the red
Radio
couch.
Van,
This is what it.
103.1, the Great American Weekend.
This is where it all happens. My alter ego, I have no idea. Maybe like...
For instance, I'll give you some time to think. We had a test today, Disney character test. Master Steve was Mickey Mouse and I was Minnie Mouse.
You're Mickey Mouse? That was your alter ego?
Yeah.
Well, no, not alter egos. It was one of those quizzes online where...
What did I say about a person?
Which Disney character are you?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe like... I have like in mind maybe... if you think of like archetype of someone who's in the movie and they're like, it's like the bad guy on a sports team who's really is just like a jerk. He's yelling at everyone and he's not a good guy in general. Maybe like someone like that. I don't think I really yell at anyone too much.
But what makes you angry?
What makes me angry? I can get frustrated. As I'm sure Dave Peters can attest.
When you lose your hat.
yeah. When I lose my hat, no, that's not it. I play rugby, or I played rugby for a while, and that brings out a different side of me for sure that few people have seen.
I bet.
Yeah.
But hopefully you're not taking off helmets and swinging them at people.
Well,
did you see that? Thursday night, the
Steelers,
football,
oh my gosh,
Steelers and Browns.
The Browns, I did see that. That was crazy.
That was nuts.
It was. I kind of liked it. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was kind of. I thought it was kind of fun. Personally, I mean, it's it's something more in the game. They're wearing pads. It's a football fight. They're wearing pads. It's fun.
Hey, Peter, I'd like to thank you for coming here. We're out of time, actually.
Oh, we're already done?
And
what time is it?
I told you that it just passes by really fast.
Oh, my gosh.
We're done, and we have another segment with the calendar of events. And we'll be done with the show, so we'll ask you to wait and take a picture with us right after that. And before we finish with Peter, I'd like to ask this one last question, like really short definition. Define America. America is the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh my gosh. America is unique.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Well, this is the Great American Weekend, guys. We'll be back right after the break. Stay tuned. There is the calendar of events coming.
Oh, say, can you see?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed?
Adamast, what are you doing?
He's trying not to forget where he came from.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I am Master Steve here with Ina MK, and we are in the home stretch. We've got our calendar of events.
Yay, there's a lot going on, guys.
A lot going on in Yerevan this week. First of all, we've got 2 events at the American Corner this Tuesday, November 19th. We've got Art in Conversation with Jim Daly, and this week's topic is Women in Architecture. We also have the Reading Club with Natalie Sharp, and that they're reading The Pain Scale by Eula Biss. So again, the Art and Conversation is 1 o'clock on Tuesday the 19th, and the Reading Club is at 3:30 on Tuesday the 19th.
And let's move to movies in English at Kino Park. So from November 17th through 20th, there is a movie Midway, an American war film based on the attack on Pearl Harbor and the subsequent Battle of Midway during World War II at 2:35 p.m. Ford versus Ferrari, a 2019 American sports drama film at 5:50 and 11:15 p.m.
So, and The Joker is still playing at 3:35 this week, and Dr. Sleep, which is a 2019, a new American horror film based on the 2013 novel of the same name by Stephen King. And of course, that novel is a sequel to Stephen King's 1977 novel, The Shining.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. A little bit, it looks like a fairy tale to me. I watched it last week. But it's
a fairy tale based on a horror novel by Stephen King?
Exactly. So if you guys
then
love the genre, watch it. We've got Opera and Ballet Theater, The Magic Flute Opera in 2 acts, November 20th at 7 p.m. Carmen Suite Ballet in 1 act, and Lorquiana Spanish folk music, November 23rd at 7 p.m. That's all we have in Opera and Ballet Theater.
Great live music. We've got the Sonnet Quintet at Club 12 on November 17th. We've got Flamenco Night with Los Locos at the Venue, also on November 17th. Project 12 is playing at 12 Club on November 18th. We've got Haik Shakarian. Speaking too fast, I can't. The Haik Shakarian Trio at Ulihanyan on the 18th. Dialogue Project at Ulihanyan Club on the 19th. The Double Piano Concert, Vahag and Hairopitian and Haik Shakarian, November 20th. We've got Live November, which is Garik and Sona at Kami Club on the 20th. The Sharak Project at Ulihanyan Club on November 21st. Also on November 21st is the Vishap Ensemble at Kalume. Dave Giodakian's Quartet is at Ulihanyan Club on the 22nd. John Schofield Tribute is at Ulihanyan Club the next day, the 23rd of November. Goran Bregovic, November 24th.
Finally.
Yeah, at 7 p.m. at the Sport and Concert Complex. And again, the Sonnet Band is at Ulihanyan Club on the 24th of November. And Four Colors is also at Ulihanyan on the following night, November 25th.
Wow, a lot of things going on in Ulihanyan Club.
As always, great live music here in Yerevan.
Other events upcoming. Club night with Thumb, Yorn Hamsa, Sevda and Hoptop, November 16th at 11 p.m. at Polygraph Club. Chinese Lantern Festival 2019, November 23rd at 3 p.m. at Abovian City. Saroyan Day cultural event dedicated to William Saroyan, November 20th at 7:30 at the Loft. There are a lot of things going on within the framework of this event.
So now I've got a question, because are these events in English? There's the philologist Zavin Boyjanyan speaking. Are these events about Saryan, are they in English?
I think there should be in English. Okay. If you guys want to ask, if you have any questions, or if you have time to visit, just call the Loft for more information. So there's a lecture dedicated to William Saroyan. There is a presentation of the Armenian version of Saroyan's books. Mama, I love you. Papa, you're crazy. My name is Aram. The Adventures of Wesley Jackson. And some other interesting stuff. Demonstrations of Saroyan's graphic works, a photo room with holographic image of Saroyan, the William Saroyan House Museum. So make sure
Wonderful.
You check out the
Again,
event.
a busy week here coming up in Yerevan. Well, we got to sign off now. It's been fun. Thank you for listening. This is Master Steve and Ina MK signing off for the Great American Weekend here on Radio Von.
Thank you, Master Steve. Thanks for these past 2 hours of fun that we had. And you guys make sure, if you missed this show, that's a pity, but you can check the video out.
You can always check it out later.
Have a safe weekend. Bye-bye.